The O Cannabis Conference and Expo returns to Toronto June 1st through the 3rd, and there's still some good booth locations available. This exciting event is free for cannabis retailers and will feature Tommy Chong receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award at the O Cannabis Industry Awards. For more information about exhibiting or to register to attend, go to ocannabis.com. That's OCANNABIZ.com. Welcome back to The Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, capital markets analyst and host of your Cannabis Business Podcast. Back with us is Rohit Shrivastava, Chief Investment Officer and Portfolio Manager with with the C3 Fund. Rohit, thanks for being back on the podcast.
Thank you so much, Josh, for having me. And interesting times and very exciting times. We talked about like how 2021 is going to be the year of cannabis, and people who already have invested might have already seen that. But first, let's talk about the disclosure that this is all for entertainment. This is all for learning. We're not giving any advice here. Do your own analysis, do your own research, and then invest. Don't take our word. We are doing our own investments, and you do yours. The cannabis index, which we have been talking for almost now 1.5 years or more than 1.5 years, and equally weighted investments. And the purpose of that is to track and see how the direction of the stock is going. So from the overall index, the 18 stocks which we basically hold and buy and sell. This is how we saw this the incubation of that, and over a period of time, as of today, this is where it is, which is like you can see that it has been rising. It has been constantly rising, and last week we still talked about that we were anticipating it to touch the 675 support line, and we are now crossed over the 674 support line. What I anticipate is that we will probably reach the 750 support line. I think that we will see some correction at that point. That would probably indicate that it is at an all-time high, and most of the stocks might be at all-time high, and most of the stocks might be in the process of some of the people who had bought the stock at that time might be taking the profit and say like, I'm happy with my returns, and I'm happy that it recovered, but I'm going to quit this now. So you might see some correction at that time. But for now, I think until probably the next 2 weeks or so, I think it might reach to the 750 support line unless there is a overall market turmoil. From the cash flow perspective is very similar. Like last week, we did see last month, we did see that it is starting to rise. It was staying above the average daily value per equity, and it has consistently stayed above that. So which is also in the upward trend, which really means that we should be seeing a consistent rise from here on, from a mid-long-term perspective. So if there is any correction, like we talked about, if there's any correction about like when it reached most of the stock, when they reach all-time high, that is when probably we should be seeing some correction around that. So this is how our fund is performing as of today. So we are about 78% return as compared to 59 and 60% from the time of our incubation. But and the market itself, the cannabis market itself is doing good. So MJ and Podex, from the point of where the incubation, they have been doing good. Not to divert from that and excitement, but also you got to see that last year they were doing pretty bad, like negative 20 and 35% when we were still doing positive. So even though it looks like it's almost the same, we have a little bit more edge on that, but the key of that is we get out of the market when we see that the market is not trending in our direction. So that is a value proposition for our fund.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt, Rohit. What's the fund size for C3?
So we started in August of 2020 with $300,000, and at this point we are about 3.29 million. Some of them is the growth of the fund, some of them is new investments. But I want to be clear that 3.29 million is only for cannabis investments. Our whole portfolio is about 12 million, but 3.29 million is only for cannabis. So does that make sense?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Okay,
Continue.
sure. So moving forward, so where we are right now is we are about 78% return in the overall cannabis index itself, and while other industries, like you can see, 59 and 60% respectively. From last time we talked, MJ had been about 52% rise, Partex about 39% rise, and we also grew by 39% in the last from the last time when we talked about it. So that's where we stand at this point. Again, this is an idea about how we progress and how we have been progressing in the last 1.5 years. About even though the market had been negative, we had been consistently providing a positive returns on that. So this is just giving an idea about how we have progressed in that. So overall, where we are is that we are seeing that based on data, we have crossed 635 and looks very optimistic turn. We will be looking for 750 as the support line for us, resistance for us, sorry. And these are the stocks. So most of the stocks which are overperforming, we are actually holding most of them. And the cannabis index overall, we are about a 78% return at this point. So thank you so much for listening to our stuff, and looking forward for another exciting month.
Very exciting indeed. Yeah. So 93% in 2020. And then what, another, you had over 53% in January. So quite the return. Looking forward to what's going to keep happening. That's pretty crazy. So
yeah,
good news.
But don't forget, I think don't forget that we are an AI based. So if there is going to be any correction, our system will kick in and try to lock those gains for us. So.
Right. So today, for example, we had about a 15% pop in the market with cannabis. And so in the eventuality that there is a correction that we've seen in previous years after January, whether that's portfolio reallocation or just taking profits, whatever it is, if or when there is a correction, predictive analytics will get us out, hopefully in time. Just going to have to come back to the talking hedge and find out. So I want to thank my guest, Rohit Srivastava, Chief Investment Officer and Portfolio Manager with the C3 Fund. Rohit, thanks for being back on the podcast.
Thank you.
I'm Josh Kincaid. This is The Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't, and I'm out. Don't forget to smash that like button on your way out and check out these other videos that we've got.
How do cannabis CEOs balance growth and optimization strategies? What is THCO, Delta-10, and CBNA, and why should you care about these minor cannabinoids? And why isn't the endocannabinoid system covered in medical school? Most people think they're up to date in trends in the cannabis industry, but they're about 6 weeks behind. Learn about what is truly next in the cannabis space by joining myself, Brian Fields, and Kellen Finney every week on the Dime Podcast, and of course, on PodConnects.